Welcome to the Lady Nighthawk Show, where we talk about many hot topics. We talk about many things. We try to keep you up on policy. We try to keep you, the veterans, informed. We try to keep everybody informed about anything that's new. I have a person that's, he's an Esquire, but I would say he my bro, because he's been hanging in here with me forever, okay? So he wasn't with me when we were doing curtains, but after that episode, he's been with me since we've been on a green set. And he was with me on COVID when we were able to learn how to use Skype. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself. How you doing tonight?
Good evening, and thank you for having me back on your show. My name is Donald Bell. I'm an attorney here in Maryland. I'm here in Prince George's County, proudly serving the county for 20 years. And I am happy and just very proud to be here and to share the studio with you and with your audience.
And we are so happy as well, okay? I just want to say that. Like I said, we only have one set of curtains, and that's the only thing that I could tell people. That's all we had was curtains. It was around one of the green set. Yep, they were different colors. And I was kind of sad to see that they got through with the black curtain. They got rid of the black curtain. Okay. I don't know who made the decisions, but we have a blue curtain. But they had black, blue, and red. You know, I don't even remember we had a green curtain, but the black curtain always reminded me of the guy that had the white hair that always sat at the round table and talked with people all the time. Okay. Tom used to always remind me what that man's name was. At one time I knew it because I used to look at him, okay? But you probably know him. He had a talk show.
So was this like the Sunday morning talk shows, or was this like a late night talk show?
It was like in the evening. It wasn't a late night one. It was like, sometimes it was on Sunday evenings, I think it was. Okay. And well-known guy. And all he had was a black set, and he had this table, and 2 or 3 of them were sitting around the round table, and they would talk about all kinds of issues, all kinds of guests, you know. Wow. And you know, I like the black, you know, the black curtain. I'm glad we have a green set, because see, it's so easy for us to change from one, you know, show to another. Before we used to have people help with the cameras, and so you had to have a little crew and all that other stuff. So we've come a long way. I've been here for 16 years. Wow. So we've come a long way now, because even Tom says, "Oh, I could set up, you know, shows like this now, you know." And so we're trying something new tonight. So we're gonna get this through. But Donald, tell them what you do, because we were doing the other show, and you actually didn't really explain to people what you actually do.
Well, I'm an attorney, and the primary area that I practice in is consumer bankruptcy. So I think that, you know, I have a calling to assist people in saving their homes from foreclosure, and you know, because I want the people in this county and the surrounding counties to be able to keep their homes, to be able to live in their homes, one day pay those homes off. So when you know, they're on their deathbeds and they're passing away, you know, that they can leave something for the next generation. And I consider that to be, you know, the building blocks for generational wealth. So I consider, you know, even though I'm an attorney and this is my profession, but I consider that to be sort of my ministry and my calling, you know, to assist people in doing that.
And the veterans, you reach out to the veterans as well.
Of course,
come to you as well.
Of course,
I don't ever want to leave them out. You know, they can come to you as well.
Veterans, especially, because oftentimes when veterans are coming to me, the issue with foreclosure and foreclosure prevention is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. There may be other underlying issues, and because of many of the contacts that I made on this show through you, I'm able to, you know, refer those people to people like I can call Commander Eagleston. You know, he is a great member of this community. I mean, I'm talking about Bowie, Prince George's County.
You're talking about across the country. Look, he just did a show with John Woodward, you know, on the devastation of traumatic injuries not too long ago.
But he knows who to call.
Yeah, and
he knows who to call the VA.
Yep, and he works with you know, the president of the United States has him over at,
Yeah.
you know, and he sits on Congress to see what's going on, you know. And he's so busy that we're going to have to try to lasso him and try to get him, you know, to come on. But
he's always just a phone call away.
yeah, it
so
is a
oftentimes,
phone call
you know,
away.
with these veterans,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
we can solve this immediate problem, but
Yes.
then they have other PTSD, was post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, they got issues, you know, maybe they need some family counseling. Maybe, you know, they need help in getting their VA claim, which was denied, reviewed. So he knows who to call. He knows who in Washington, D.C. I'm not just talking about the city. I'm talking about the political landscape. He knows, you know, he knows who to direct people to.
And he just got his PhD.
Yes.
So now he's Dr. Charles Eggleston.
Oh, okay.
So remember we were talking about that.
So I'm gonna have to call him Doctor. Dr. Eggleston.
I don't know. You're gonna call him Dr. Commander Charles Eggleston. I mean, he's gonna be like Ross. Ross gonna be Dr. Reverend.
Oh,
okay. Now, look, I'm still working on my PhD. Okay, and my dad paid for it a long time ago for the seminary, right?
Yeah.
But I have to get it done. I'm not paying somebody $5,000 to get a PhD. I'm doing it the right way. I'm gonna finish up. It's gonna get done, you know. But yeah, but it's funny. So if you see Reverend Ross the next time he is Dr. Reverend Ross, okay, yeah, I take my hat off to you. Dr. Eggleston, since you said that, he got his from a college.
Okay.
Okay, and then Morehouse is supposed to be giving them. I think this other one was by. I don't know. He didn't realize that one was coming. Yeah. But Morehouse had asked him to come to give. You know, that's a historically black college.
Yes.
I don't know who that's the other one that he got from, but I know that Morehouse is supposed to, you know, give him an honorary doctorate degree, because that's what he got from another place, an honorary doctorate degree, which is different from a PhD, because they can't put PhD behind their names with the honorary ones. You can only use it as doctor, but you can't say doctor PhD.
Yes.
You actually have to go through a PhD program. That's why they call them honorary doctorate degrees. That's the difference, okay? So I'm working on my dad paid for me to get a PhD. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Okay, God bless his soul, okay? But I've been working on it off and on, you know, and so many things have been going on. But
so that's at a seminary school or something like that? Okay.
Yeah, so it would be a doctorate in theology.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Is there like a specialty or something like that, or is it just theology? Like, is there like a special?
Well, I mean, you have to go through. You have to go through just like if you. I mean, it's just like if you're working on your master's.
Yes.
You know, you have different segments that you have to go through. So
Understand.
you're doing biblical stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you have to learn how to write. Which a lot of times it's easier because preachers that already have been through a seminary. I've been through another seminary before, but it was like when I first got into the ministry, okay? And the program that I went through, even though I could be called doctor, okay, it was like a satellite program. And so I finished it. I mean, I could be called doctor, okay? But it wasn't the one that my dad wanted me to have, okay?
Gotcha.
So this is the one I'm actually going through a seminary.
Okay.
The other one was a preacher had a school that he had in D.C. at one time where he was helping people so that they could get their doctorate degrees. Okay, so they would meet at the church and stuff like that. But this is actually a school that is different now.
I understand.
So. Yeah, so it makes it easier for people that are preachers, because one of the classes that you have to do is homiletics, and then they want to make sure that you know how to do a sermon, you know, and stuff like that. Then you know you got to write a book. You know, I started on this book years ago, okay, and I never finished it. It's about women in the ministry. But do you know something, Donald? We still have the same problems today that I had when I went to the ministry when I was 21 years old, okay, with men. But it's not really with the men. It's just one convention that doesn't want really women, still doesn't want women to.
Well, you know, I grew up in the South.
Yeah, so you know which one I'm talking about. I'm not going to say their names, though.
And, you know, I grew up in, you know, this traditional Baptist church, and there was an issue with women being in the pulpit. I remember this vividly. And I remember about 15 years ago, my son is 20 now.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember about 15 years ago, I went back home to Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and I was shocked that one of the ministers that was in the pulpit was a woman.
Yeah.
And so, you know, things had changed dramatically.
But 10 Chairs is the one, they have changed to a different convention, because the convention that was flat out, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention them, did not want women in the pulpit. They didn't want female deacons. It's my understanding that they still feel the same way today. Okay.
Which is interesting to me, because from my recollection, women made up the majority of the congregation. Women were the ones who typically,
they were the deaconesses.
they put the programs together, and they were the ones who were doing the fundraising. They were the ones who were really keeping the church together, because the church is more than just the building.
That's right.
It's the people, and
That's right.
and what they were doing. So the women were the ones who were,
Yeah.
even though like when growing up they weren't allowed in the pulpit, but they were still
doing their job.
They were still ministering.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always like a sort of a weird thing,
Mm-hmm.
And as a child in the 70s and the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
you could be seen but really not heard. So
Mm-hmm.
it always it always baffled me.
Well,
But like I said, when I went back about 15 years ago, there was a woman in the pulpit. She was the associate member at this church, and this church that I went to was in the country. It was in the middle of nowhere.
get out.
And I was just, I was shocked. I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy, that progress,
Well, I'm going to say, in my young age, the pastor that I came out of, his name was Eugene Smith, Pastor Eugene Smith from Florida Avenue Baptist Church, was one of those well-known Baptist churches.
In Southeast,
No, it's in Northwest Washington.
Northwest, okay.
But it was where that I forgot what they call it, that little sector that they had the churches that well-known prestigious preachers preached out of, and people were going to in the center of the city.
Okay.
And so Florida Avenue was right there on the right there with that group of preachers and stuff.
Okay.
I don't want to call out their names, but anyway, him and that group of people were the first ones that allowed women to preach in the pulpit. I was the first female preacher that got licensed at Florida Avenue Baptist Church. We also had two female deaconesses that were turned over, that he licensed them to be deacons. So he did, before he got out his ministry, he said he was going to do that. He did. I was the first license, and then he licensed another female after me, and then he licensed two other female deacons in the ministry. And that's what my first book, when I started to write, when I was going through seminary, it was women. Why are women treated so badly amongst the brethren? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I learned that a lot of times that a lot of the oppositions were coming from the women, and that's amazing. And I guess it was where they came from, the convention that they came from under. Okay. And then later on, after I got older, then I figured out why they didn't really want us to be involved, because it's a good old boys club, this one convention. Okay. So they didn't want us coming in, to see. I mean, because since then, this is nothing that's I'm saying, but it's been publicized that, sometimes you have these ministers that step out that they're not supposed to, or they're going with somebody in the church. Because there's one over in Baltimore, a well-known person, I'm not going to say who they was, and the congregation out of the mind, here, big church, okay? And it come to find out that he was, out on his wife, but they got it straight. But like I said, I figured that that's why they didn't want us in that particular group, because we were infiltrating the good old boys club,
Well, it's about power, and it's about influence. So, you want to keep that power and that influence among that select few. Because traditionally, the black church was like the most powerful business unit in the black community. That's where, people went for everything. Everything happened in the black church, and if you were the minister or the preacher in charge, you had a tremendous amount of influence. And black ministers were the people that the rest of the world came to. So the politicians in that particular city and things of that nature, they look to the black ministers to sort of get a feel for, where that community, how that community views certain issues and things of that nature. So, you open that door to a whole nother group of people, women, you may lose some of that influence. So.
Well, here, let's say this. In the Bible, you have when Jesus, he would, even though he had disciples, he would talk to the women first. When he was moving along after his resurrection, the first person they reached out to was a woman.
Yep.
And he told her to go tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So women were a part of his ministry, and he could confide in them as well. Those were his apostles, but he reached out to the women as well. They were the first to know sometimes before even the apostles knew, So I don't understand why it's a big deal, because it's biblical, that if Jesus respected us enough and reached out to us and we had to go get a message to them, you understand, sometimes, then what is the problem? He created us all equally, and the other part of that is that he anoints us, male, female, to preach his word. You know what I mean? You got some people that don't have the anointing. And he says you have to study to show yourself approved, okay? So that means that he's holding us accountable to make sure that we understand what the word and how to rightly devise the word of God, okay? So we all are held accountable. Okay, to do that. Not just ministers, everybody that's his own, that says I confess with my mouth, and in my heart, that Jesus is Lord. We're all responsible. And just like you said on another show, that we have to learn fellowship. It's not a building that you sit on. It's not. We have to learn how to fellowship, And I think that this is my own personal opinion, I think that with all these Zoomings and all that other stuff, we've taken out the fellowship part of it. God wants us, and Jesus wants us to fellowship, with one another. It's okay if you're sick, if your church offers you a Zoom, but it should not become your way of life. He needs you in his house so you can feel his spirit. I'm not saying you don't feel a spirit at home, because you do. But I'm just saying, but he wants us to fellowship, because it's the brethren and the sister that keeps each other alive. That's why we have people that send us text messages and try to encourage us and send us little things, and they have their own little prayer group, across the country, because he wants us to be able to fellowship with one another, to keep each other lifted and encouraged, because this world is getting really, really bad. And we're the only ones that, if we truly believe and have faith and trust in him, then that's where we have to pull our strength from, and so, it's God has been really good to me, because I've been involved in things that I would never, ever on my own would have thought that God would have had me to do in this ministry that he has called me to do. And I've met so many different people, and to charge me with being able to help with the March on Washington with Coretta Scott King, Jesse Jackson, and the Interfaith. They put me in charge of the Interfaith Council for that particular year for the March on Washington. And we had our own stage. I didn't have a dime. I said, the mayor at the time was Sharon Pratt Kelly. She made it possible for me to get in touch with somebody, and I didn't even realize, even going to seminary, I didn't even realize that there were so many different religions out here until I was the chairperson for the Interfaith Council, okay? And I worked with so many other ministers. I mean, I got papers at home. I'm not just telling stories, where I was actually involved in these different things. And they called and asked me to pray. Would I want to be a minister from down in North Carolina that was on one of the committees? He had to get the people together to pray at the Lincoln Memorial. And he called me and he asked me would I be one of those, because he had to get, from different religions, and they asked me. I don't know if I said this to you here, but I've said it to other people. That is an awesome feeling for somebody that doesn't even know you, but somebody has said something, because God said he will make men know you, okay? You don't have to brag about it yourself. I'm going to brag for you. And they had me pray at the March on Washington, okay, down at the Lincoln Memorial on the steps, over thousands of people. I will never forget that day ever in my life. Many things that he has done for me, just like the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, that I just got this year in 2024, because somebody was watching. You understand what I'm saying? And so, they've seen the community work that I do. They see the things that I do, the people that I help. I mean, you know me. You know what I mean? If I was a bad person, your spirit would have cared. You say, you know what I mean? I couldn't have called you and asked you to be with me on this program. But we have, your family is my family. My family is your family. You know what I mean? And so that's what God wants us to do, the fellowship, so that we do feel like that when we're among each other. He had, Donald, it's so many things that he has done for me that I just have to, we should have been saying this on the other show, but it's coming up on this one. That he has afforded me an opportunity to do. I took a picture with Clint. I took a picture with Sharon Pat Kelly. I took a picture with the mayor when she was a city council person in my district over in Ward 4. I took a picture with her and got letters and stuff from her from my church, from Jeremiah, from her when we were doing the work over there in that area. That's where the church was, before we had to close. And things that we would do. I worked with community sources where we would take on families. Me, Paul, and his friend at the time, we would go help families, and my other kids would help, along with some other people. We would each have family, make sure they had something for Christmas, Thanksgiving, didn't matter, food, clothing, whatever. Once a month, you checked in on them, you know what I mean? And so that's about fellowship, looking after one another, making sure that we're okay. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have so much mental stress or mental health issues if we just checked in on each other, if we just make sure that each other's okay. I don't care if I haven't talked to you in 2 months. Well, okay, it's been 2 months. Pick up the phone, text. You got another way you can communicate. I'm not saying text is the best way, but I'm saying that at least sometimes don't just text, because text messages is the devil too. That's what I preach. Because depending on how you feel, is how you're going to take something that somebody has. And it might be totally misconstrued from a text message. You know what I mean? So that's why it's better to talk to people, really. We've gotten so bogged down with electronics and stuff, and these little kids down with the mental health, they're saying it's taking my life over and under control. It's not just doing them young people, it's doing adults as well. Mental health is mental health. Mental stress is mental stress, But we need to do what you said. We need to look out for each other. We need to fellowship with one another. We need to make sure that we get our stuff in order so far as you tell us what you said.
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity to talk about we need to get yourself together. You need to get your life in order. You need to get your spiritual life together. And when I'm talking about you, I'm talking about we. All of us need to work on ourselves. We need to work on ourselves spiritually, and we need to work on ourselves financially. Okay? So spiritual part, everything that our host is talking about fellowship, about checking on your people. If you got somebody you hadn't spoken to in a while, had a falling out with somebody, you need to
make amends,
because you don't know when your last day is, or you don't know when their last day is. So don't have any regrets about that. And then the next thing is you got to get your financial house in order. You got debts, you got assets, you got property that you haven't been looking after. Now is the time to put together a plan to get your financial house in order. I know it's going to be difficult, because you got to face up to some stuff that you haven't taken care of. Maybe it's taxes, maybe it's debts, old debts, whatever it is. Let's put together a plan to get your financial house in order. So, we want to put you in a position where you can keep what you got. All right? Don't put yourself in a position where your creditors or somebody else is going to take what you have. you need to get your financial house in order. You know, if you're behind on your mortgage, you know,
call somebody.
Yeah, call somebody. If you don't want to reach out to an attorney, I mean, we have the housing counselor that you can reach out to. But you know, let's get your financial house in order, but most importantly, get your spiritual house in order. Get closer to God, and you know, if you hadn't talked to God in a while, you know, that's not God's fault.
Not.
No.
And so, you know, he never said that we weren't going to have trials and tribulations, and that's what people get it wrong, you know. We have to have a trial and a tribulation so that we know how to come through the storm. He said he's going to be with us every step of the way.
And
you
God
know?
never said we were going to be perfect.
No, he never said that. And so but he did say that I will be with you every step of the way, whether there are highs or lows in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to remember that we are not alone. Okay, but then he doesn't want us to be alone. That goes back to what you keep saying. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't know why he had us talk about this, but he said, y'all missed it. Y'all was supposed to say that on the last program, but I ain't gonna let y'all get away this time, okay? But it's just amazing if you're a good steward. Look, when 20-something years old, when they were having revivals, I have to say this, when they were having revivals down at Florida Avenue Baptist Church, all these preachers only have a revival, like one revival.
Okay.
Right? I said, look, we need to have a 3-day revival. He said, Paul, people don't do 3-day revivals. I said, the Lord said, when he tells me to do something, I do it. I don't question it. I don't argue with him. He say, do it, I do it. And every time I've done that, he ain't never steered me wrong, right? I said, the Lord told me that we supposed to have a 3-day. He said, and he wants a title, Aligning My Troops for Jesus. He said, well, how you gonna get people to come out? I said, it ain't me that's getting anybody to come out. I got other preacher friends that we can call on, right? Do you know that every night, it was a different preacher, they had a different choir, you know, that place was jam-packed for 3 days. Never been done before. And he came back to me. He said, you know what, every time you tell me something that God said, he said, I don't need to listen to people when they say God said. He said, but every time you've told me something that God said to you and I let you do it, it never fails. I said, well, wait a minute, come on, preacher. Okay? He said, no, I don't mean that negatively. You know, I'm talking about me or anybody else. It just says that I know that when you say that he has spoken to you, that I know that you tell him to, because you have shown me every time, you know. And I'm still that way. I'm not going to argue with him, you know. So you got to rely on your spirit. And spirit tries spirit. You know what I mean? And then he said, if it don't feel right, you know, put them out. One thing I say to tell the people, if you know, you start to feel like it's something that, before we get ready to go, if it's something going on in your house and it seems like it ain't right and the wrong person has stepped in there, you go through your house and anoint your house. Get some anointing oil. Go through there and anoint your windows, your doors, anything that could let anything evil in there. And then open up the door and after you finish anointing everything, open up the door and put the devil out. Okay? And shut the door and come back. Don't come across this, you know, door sills again. You know, my mother started me doing that though. And it works, okay? So I'm trying to give you a tidbit, okay? But it's always a joy, and thank you for putting this on the street, because we were supposed to do this on the last show.
Oh, of course.
But we got what we got for those viewers, because they don't get as much information as we get here. So we did give them what they needed, but then we needed to give these group of people this message, and that's why you said, I'm coming by myself. You knew that. You knew God wanted you in here with me by yourself. Ain't that something?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Can you see that, though?
I can see it now.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure it out. You told everybody, nah, I'm going to go with her. You go with her next week.
Yeah.
You know? Now I know. God had a plan, you know, and it's his plan. It's not ours. You know, if we obey what he says, it ain't going to never go wrong. And so I thank you. I take my hat off to you. I take my hat off to everybody that watches, the viewers tonight. I hope you got something out of this, okay? And good.